This shit more than a game.
Perfect.
Yesterday, the NFL released their new cap numbers for 2025, and shocking news, the cap went up. So now the New Orleans Saints have a lot more cap space to play with in 2025, and it was a stark reminder to me that I don't want people to get lost in the shuffle. Yes, the Saints have had some bad personnel decisions the past 4 years. Yes, Mickey Loomis deserves a lot of criticism for that. But one thing I do not want to do revisionist history with is that a lot of the capologists and media analysts from the national media, and I even say the cap nerds are going to say, we told the Saints kicking the cap can down the road, it doesn't work. That's a false statement, y'all, because if you actually look at the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, they actually did something very similar to the New Orleans Saints, where they are maneuvering their cap to keep all of the talent they have. It works, folks. It actually does work. You had just damn well better get your personnel decisions correct. You had damn sure better get your draft picks correct. And finally, you had damn sure better get your head coach correct. Okay? I know that Mickey Loomis is almost persona non grata in New Orleans right now, but what I do not want to get lost in the shuffle, I do not want to have revisionist history about is kicking the cap can down the road actually works. You can maneuver it. The cap in the NFL is more popular every year. The cap space is going to continue to go up. Just make sure you actually got your ducks in a row, and then the cap space, it doesn't matter. So when all the capologists and the cap nerds and the opposing fans come and say, we told y'all Saints that y'all shouldn't have kicked the cap can down the road. So yes, we should have. We should have just probably hired a better head coach. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the John O'Bones Show, where this shit more than a stream.
This shit more than a game. We ain't playing no field. We fans born kinda wild, fire in our hearts revealed. Yeah, we shout and we cheer, our passion loud and clear. Together we rise, this love no compromise. Holler at the screen, repping our dream team. From the sidelines we scream, living in this fan's dream. Yeah, we shout and we cheer, our passion loud and clear. Together we rise, this love no compromise.
This shit more than a game. And folks, I told you at the end of the season that we were going to make sure that the offseason was just as lit as the regular season was. And I had to go through my Rolodex. I know a lot of you guys might be young, not know what a Rolodex is, and say, man, what special guests can I have on my show to make sure that we make this offseason this shit more than a game certified? And I'm not going to hold y'all even long tonight. We have a very, very special guest. He was the first person I actually hit up. I say it's been a long time coming, like Sam Cooke. I've been wanting this guy on my show for a long, long time. He has been doing amazing work. I would even go as far as to call him the most underrated Saints reporter out there right now. Ladies and gentlemen, this man needs no introduction, but I am legally binded to give him one. He is the host of Second and Saints with Ross Jackson. His past works include, and get ready because this is a great resume, Saints News Nation on Sports Illustrated, Boot Crew Media. We love our folks at Boot Crew Media. Canal Street Chronicles, the Sun Herald in Mississippi, WDSU, and Fansided's Who Dat Dish. He currently serves as the publisher of the prestigious At the Lawn Sports. Give it up, everybody, for the one and only John Hendrix.
Thanks, man. Good to be here. That's a heck of a travel down memory lane, man. And I really appreciated your opening monologue too, because I see Stone Cold in the background there, and I was just the only thing that was missing, and that's the bottom line, because Mr. Barnes said so. That's
But
all you need to throw in there.
I'm glad you picked that up because I am a huge wrestling fan, obviously, and a
Same.
lot of my persona and this shit more than the game is wrestling inspired, right? Like Stone Cold had, and that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. The Rock had, if you smell what the Rock is cooking, one of the things that when I said it the first time and I saw people started noticing and like saying it back to me, I was like, oh, that might be my, and that's the bottom line. That might be my and Austin 316 moment. This shit more than the game. So I kind of use my wrestling persona a lot when I say it. So I'm glad you caught that. I'm glad you caught that, John. John, we are so happy to have you on the show tonight, man. You have so many things going on in your very busy life, but for you to take time to come and speak to this shit more than the game community, we really, really appreciate it. And I think the main thing that a lot of Saints fans want to know right now, especially from somebody who's in the building like you are in the building, is how do you feel overall about the Kellen Moore hire?
I'm just glad that it's something not familiar. I think that's the biggest thing for me is going into this. And look, I wrote something a long time ago, even before like we got to the offseason, saying if I was the GM of the Saints, here's what I'd do. Right. And so for me, my guy that I picked out was Anthony Weaver, right? Like I just loved his makeup. I wanted them to go against the grain. I wanted to find somebody that wasn't totally familiar with. So that's what I like about Kellen Moore is the fact that it's somebody that, I mean, they did their due diligence. They're going to get to know him, all this other stuff, but there's no ties to the Sean Payton stuff, right? Like it's just feels like a refreshing start for the Saints. And look, Kellen Moore, I think the biggest thing that I would tell people is he may not win you over on his press conferences and stuff. Like he may not be the most outspoken guy. He's very smart. He's very intelligent. He's going to say the right things. I liked what he had to say in his opening press conference. A lot of things I think the fans can get behind it. I didn't get that sense from Dennis Allen. You know what I'm saying? But like, I think if you look at it, go back and watch it. I think that when he talks about Who Dat Nation and getting the dome rock and all this other stuff, it's good to get behind a guy like that. And so I feel really good about the hire. I think that it's obviously good to get somebody from an offensive tree, somebody who's going to be able to imprint their own DNA into this team. And then he needs something different, man. They haven't been in the playoffs for years.
I agree.
It's time. So I like it.
I know what they say, you can't move, you can't drive forward if you're looking at the rear mirror and not the windshield. Sean Payne was the rear mirror we kept looking behind when we were trying to go forward. I agree with that. You mentioned Anthony Weaver. He was actually a dark horse candidate for me because I'm very, in my non-expert way, like I look at all of the candidates and I'm like, okay, I went to YouTube and I watched the press conferences for all of the head coaching candidates. And I was like, which one is like just screams this shit more than a game at me? And I actually thought Anthony Weaver did. I was like, he would be fun, like to be, it's New Orleans, right? Like we like characters. We like people who have that gravis to them. Kellen Moore did not have it. Let's be honest. Like if you would have said Kellen Moore was going to be our head coach at the end of the season, the regular season, I think Saints fans would have been like, yeah, but God was looking over the New Orleans Saints because as jilted as Saints fans felt about the whole head coaching search, the man Kellen Moore did help the Eagles win the Super Bowl, right? So you cannot buy PR like that. I want to ask you this. You kind of mentioned about Kellen Moore's persona, right? He's not Sean Payton. He's not going to be, well, that we know of.
Right, yeah.
When you're in Philadelphia, he's about to come to New Orleans. I feel like he might, some of that might start building up in him. What was your first impression of Kellen Moore overall, though? You were one of the few reporters who were actually in the building for the press conference. I know you say that he doesn't come off as, striking or like this brooding personality, but what was your I feel like sometimes you can feel energy when you are face to face with a person. So what was your first impression of Kellen Moore at the opening press conference?
The fact that he was ecstatic to be here, excited, exactly like rejuvenated, energized. And that's all I wanted out of this coaching search. I put out a tweet that said, they just need to get the guy who wants to be here. Right. And the thing is, it wasn't Mike McCarthy. Cliff Kingsbury stayed in Washington. Joe Brady stayed in Buffalo, all this other stuff. But they got the guy who was wanting this opportunity, has always wanted this opportunity because he is a coach's son, all this other stuff, and mirrored a lot off of his dad and such. But that was my first takeaway, just the fact of how excited he was to be here and coaching the Saints, right? And the thing is, you could have talked about nonsense, but dude's smiling. He's just happy. You see his family in attendance and everybody just like he has that certain something that you gravitate towards him. But like, that's the first thing I'd say, is that he was super excited. I think he carries himself extremely well. He knows what he's talking about. He's also knows what to say, and kind of that fine line already. Cause like, he said this stuff about Derek Carr. He's pressed twice, and kind of non-committal is what we kind of had said, for that. But at the same time, he didn't really give too much away. He knows about Alvin Kamara. He knows about Taysom Hill. So, I mean, it's like, you get a lot of some good brownie points for what he said first, but it's got to be his excitement level for being here.
I always say, fans are going to love a head coach until he gives them a reason not to. Like, we loved Dennis Allen until we say, oh, wait a minute. He's Dennis Allen. He was the same guy in Oakland. But I agree with you that, again, how the head coaching search went, right? Like, oh man, nobody wants to be the Saints head coach. Joe Brady said no. Cliff Kingsbury said no. It's the worst it's the worst attractive job of all the head coaching candidacies. For Kellen Moore to be in a situation like Philadelphia, where he could have said, I got Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts in their prime. We are primed for a chance to repeat as Super Bowl champions, where I can build my resume even more and get a much more luxurious job in 2026. For him to say, no, I want to come to New Orleans, when everybody else is saying no, he told us, yes, he is automatically the most popular man in the city of New Orleans. So we're going to ride with him until he gives us a reason not to. At the end of the day, it's a win-loss business. But him doing that alone, John, I feel like wins him over in the city of New Orleans, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a point in his favor, right? And the thing is, I had said this on a pod with Ross months ago, just the fact that, some of these coordinators, like, why would they leave their situation? You know what I'm saying? Like, if Washington's close, go chase a Super Bowl ring, or if it's Buffalo, go chase the ring. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing. And then, with the amount of jobs that were actually open, wait it out. You just never know, because this is a turnover league, right? It's going to happen. But with Kellen Moore, again, it's just, exciting to see the guy. They got the guy who wants to be here. It's something that's not necessarily familiar, but at the same time, like, I just really, the vibe here is he's made the impression. I mean, you talked about Dennis Allen. The main thing that we were told and promised when Dennis Allen took over for Sean Payton was continuity. Like, it's going to be the same type of Saints. And that was what the sticking point was in a lot of people, was that no, it wasn't. Like, it wasn't even close, right? Like, it's just trying to compare Little League to MLB. It just wasn't there. And so, again, look, DA did his thing, great coordinator, but not all great coordinators make great coaches. And unfortunately, everybody was kind of right about it.
And again, this isn't you or I saying, oh, we know for sure Kellen Moore is going to be a great. He might be, like you just mentioned, a great coordinator, but a bad head coach. But he already has that, wow, he chose New Orleans when everybody said no. Same way Sean Payton and Drew Brees in 2006. They chose New Orleans. I mean, granted, we wasn't both of their first choices, but they chose us right away, so we'll take it. He chose us. We're going to ride with him. I'm very excited about that. I'm even more excited, John, that now, I mean, this is like a marketing dream for me, right? This shit more than a game. I was trying to, like, I guess like my co-host Ziggy says, I was trying to tell people all along. I wasn't just saying that to sell T-shirts or something. I was trying to tell people 3 years in advance that Kellen Moore is going to be our head coach. I'll be trying to tell people, John. I'll be trying to tell people. Look,
Subliminal messages.
You are going to be getting to be buddy with Kellen Moore in these next, hopefully 3+ years, hopefully decades long. So I just want to say, why I got you here on the show. Put in a word for me, okay? I would love to have Kellen Moore come on my show so I can get him this shit more. I mean, you can't make this up, John. This is just too perfect for him not to come and embrace that this shit more than a game. One thing he is embracing, John, is a great coaching staff, at least from name value alone, because let me go and kind of just get all the fans know who Kellen Moore has hired so far. We saw the big news today that he has hired his buddy, his pal, Eagles quarterback coach Doug Nussmeier, father of LSU quarterback, former Eagles director. This is one that got fans a lot excited, which shows you just how crazy fanaticism is, because nobody, I feel like, in the Hula Nation knew who this guy was until yesterday. But former Eagles director Tad Rott as our new director of sports science. Many know him as the get back guy for Sean McVay when he was in Los Angeles, but many also see how healthy the Eagles were the past few years, and they're like, oh, Lord knows we need good health in New Orleans. He has also hired Saints special teams assistant Phil Giuliano, I hope I'm saying that right, as our new special teams coordinator. Former Saints running back coach George Thomas, who was very popular with the running backs, he is coming back as our running backs coach. Former Cowboys coach Scott Tosian as our QB coach, and Eagles run game specialist and assistant offensive line coach TJ Paginelli. All I know is the Eagles fans who are pissed that he was leaving. He is now coming over to likely be our run game coordinator. And it seems like all the tea leaves are saying that Brandon Staley is going to be the favorite to be defensive coordinator. John, you know much more about these type of moves and personnel than John O'Barnes. How do you feel his coaching staff is coming along so far?
I mean, no Raiders influence. That's a win, right? Like, that's already a win. I mean, look, it made sense. And again, you just look at some of these coaches that have brought in. Familiarity is a good thing, especially when you're trying to build a culture, build something. And so Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier go back, right? Scott Tolzien was an offensive assistant when Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator. That makes a lot of sense. Look, you look at some of the guys that he's worked with in the past. And look, the strength and conditioning or sports science thing, it's bizarre, right? Like, again, the Saints having so many soft tissue injuries. Like, I was there at training camp in California. It was like every day somebody new got hurt for whatever reason, and it was the worst thing possible. And I'm of the firm belief that some people, when they get hurt in training camp, they're going to be playing hurt all season, because some things like hamstrings and other things like that, it's not necessarily where you get 100% and you're going to stay 100%. You're probably going to have some type of relapse because you hurt your hammy, you hurt something, you're going to compensate with the other. And so you run the risk of doing the other one. So I'm with everybody. I like that, but it's just bizarre because it took them until Dennis Allen got fired and Darren Rizzi stepped in for them to say, okay, let's have this warm-up period where we just warm up. Shouldn't a sports science guy kind of suggest that too? Like, I'm not trying to take shots or anything. It's just one of those, it's like, it just makes you wonder. So I'm excited about this concept of getting him. And then, it's just new direction. It's fresh. You got people coming from winning programs. That's what you want in your building, right? Like, people that you can learn from. The ties for Kellen Moore, it makes a lot of sense. And it's a pretty young coaching staff. I mean, Brendan Nugent is going to be a guy that, on the offensive line, he was there for New Orleans a long time, and then he left, and then now he's back. Joel Thomas, same thing. He was with New Orleans, had boom and zoom, right? Like, and now he's back. And for Phil Galliano, special teams, I mean, that was the best thing that they could do is promote from within for him, because he's extremely smart. He knows what he's talking about, and he learned from Darren Rizzi. So I feel good about where their coaching staff is. And then defense, the biggest question is, are they going to move to 3-4? Because that seems to be the direction they're going.
Yeah. You just gave a lot of valuable input from that answer. One major thing I got is, man, I be mispronouncing these names horribly.
That's okay. And look, I ain't gonna correct you anything. I'm just gonna put it and say it. Like, that's just whatever.
They've come to expect that from John O'Barnes at this point. We got a comment from my guy Bruce Sain, who kind of echoes you, John, and say, all I wanted was to move on from the Sean Payne era, and this hire has fulfilled that desire. I think a lot of fans share that echo and sentiment that it seems like we finally, after 18, 19 years, it's something different, right? Like, there's no Sean Payne cloud no longer over us. It's a new direction, and hopefully it leads to as much success as what Sean Payne did, but it doesn't have to be under that Sean Payton cloud. But if there isn't that instant success that Sean Payton brought us, John, we're all fans and we're all saying, we know that the situation right now isn't a great one. So, it's going to take Kellen Moore time. But come Sundays in September, if the Saints are losing games, them fans don't care about the cap situation. They don't care about what type of spot that Kellen Moore came in. They want to see wins or losses, especially the casual fans, right? Like the nuanced fans that's live, breathe, die Saints that's on social media 24/7 like me. Like, they understand, okay, this might be a 2-year, 3-year project to get back to contention. The casual fans who just watch every Sunday and want to know that the Saints win or that the Saints lose, they're probably going to be like, hold on, this coach ain't Sean Payne. This coach ain't winning games. Why are we going down this circle again? So I ask you, John, how much patience should fans have with Kellen Moore?
I mean, I think you got to have patience, right? I mean, this is the thing is, and I'm of the firm belief, just to kind of walk everybody through this, because I know it's a little bit difficult to come to terms with some of this stuff, but they're believing that they can compete in the NFC South. That's where they've been operating for the past several years, right? And it hasn't worked. This is presumably the last year they're going to have Cam, Tyron, and DeMario, right? And so I think they're going to try to do one more run where they can at least try to compete for the division. Wow. Now, is that going to win? I don't know. But I don't think they're at a point where they're just going to say, I'm going to hit the reset button completely, which means Derek Carr could be their quarterback. I'm not saying that that's definitely the way they're
Oh,
going, but
oh.
again, you're looking at Cam, Tyron, and Demario here for one more year, and I just would say, look, you just won 5 games last year. You can win more than 5 games if you just get a competent coach in there. You know what I'm saying? And look,
Mhm.
with the way things were going with DA, they weren't responding. You found out later, like guys like Todd Grantham, he wasn't developing anyone. So no wonder Isaiah Foskey was just playing special teams, right? Like it just was not a well-run program. And I think that's the biggest thing is the leadership. It was more like a hands-on approach. And I would just like to see Kellen Moore be more intentional, have to know what everything's going on, with his team. And I think it could lead to better success. I don't think it's going to lead to NFC South the title, but maybe it's back to 7-10. I'd call that a win, or maybe it's 8-9, or just narrowly miss out. But they got a tough schedule ahead. You got Buffalo, you got Miami, you got the NFC West. I mean, you can make something of it, but I don't know. It's always been a matter of execution with the team.
All right, that is a very, very interesting answer. One that I was not expecting, to be honest, John, because I'm kind of going into this season saying, yeah, it's definitely going to be a year where we're probably going to get a top 3 pick. Like we're going to, to fix the house, you kind of got to go to the foundation and shake it up a little bit. First off, John, the John Hendrix stimulus is real. We have over 500 people watching across our platform. So thank you, John. Let's give John a round of applause. You the man, John. You the man.
Do anything.
All right, that's very interesting because while we got over 500 people watching across all platforms, you mentioned one Derek Carr, the most popular guy in New Orleans, or let's say infamous guy in New Orleans. From your answer just now, where you said they still feel like maybe they got one more year to not just completely blow it up, but try and compete and see what happens in the NFC South. My thinking is, okay, if they actually do have that approach, then there's no way they're going to get rid of Derek Carr because I know fans love Spencer Rattler, or maybe there's a guy in the draft, but Derek Carr's the guy who kind of gives you that pathway of at least still being competitive without fully just blowing up the team. And I get that, you can't be a head coach or a franchise and say, yeah, we know we're going to suck this year. We're going to purposely lose games or like not even give an attempt. I get that. But it seems like if the approach is still be competitive, try to win games, see what happens. Let's get one more year where we got Tyron, Cam, and Demario and all that and see what happens. Doesn't that mean that Derek Carr would be the quarterback, or are you hearing or sensing something else about that? Because I know fans are really interested in the future of Derek Carr as a New Orleans Saint.
Yeah, look, I think after the combine, they'll get a little bit more of a clear direction of where this team is going. But again, the reason why the contract is so overblown right now is because the Saints restructured him in the first place, right? Like they caused this to be a problem. So it's not like he just said, oh, here's a $40 million quarterback. Like the way the contract was structured and then they restructure, like this is what it was inevitable, right? And so again, if they push the chips in, I think there's a variety of ways they could go. They could keep Carr, develop Spencer Rattler a good bit and let him rip in the next year, right? Like in 2026, they could do that, or they could move on from Carr. We like what we have in Spencer Rattler, get an inexpensive veteran, somebody maybe like a Jimmy Garoppolo or a Josh Dobbs, somebody that's a veteran that you can come in here, maybe give Spencer Rattler a little support, kind of like what Andy Dalton did a little bit a couple of years ago, but that was also a bizarre situation. But, look, I think with Carr, the biggest thing everybody has to remember is the third day of the league year is when that is important because it's a $40 million in guarantee. It's a $10 million signing bonus and a $30 million base salary. So that's where the clock is ticking. And the thing is, if they restructure him, it pushes the chips down. But if they say they want to cut him, they can only really realistically do that as a post June 1st cut. And they're going to save, I think it's, I'd have to look at it again, but I think they're $22 million is what they're still going to be stuck into the dead cap, but they have to take on that salary through the duration. And so that might limit you a little bit in some what you can do in free agency. But again, I think that's the biggest question is Derek Carr your quarterback? Are you committing to him? I know people had said, he was nowhere to be found in New Orleans when the Super Bowl week and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm of the impression maybe he's trying to rehab that hand injury a little bit. I think that's the kind of the vibe I got. Right. And so, again, it's a very mixed bag because I get it. People want to turn to Spencer Rattler, let him rip. Some people are saying, let's go with Jalen Moreau. You know what I'm saying? Or a Jackson Dart this season. It's like, You have Spencer Rattler. Like, why are you wanting to turn to that unless you just don't think he's a guy? I think there's a variety of ways, and there's a case and argument to be made for all of them that could be right.
Are you hearing anything? Not to like, give any intel or anything. I know you have your sources that you want to protect, but if you can, wink your eye, are you hearing any momentum? Because I see like some media members are saying, oh, the Saints might look into a quarterback in the draft this year. Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart being the two that people feel like can fit Kellen Moore's scheme. Let's on a scale of 1 to 10, how realistic do you think it is that the Saints might actually go quarterback in the first round in April?
I don't think that's realistic at all. First round,
Oh,
you know what I mean? I just don't see it. Now, look, here's the thing: is Jeff Ireland told us a couple years ago at the Senior Bowl, he actually prefers a dual threat quarterback. Like that's his makeup, his mold. He likes the duality of what that quarterback can bring to the table. And so I thought that was interesting. And so again, at 9th overall, I think you've got a lot more needs here. And this isn't a particularly good quarterback class, right? Like it just isn't. I just don't like the prospects that are there. I think you could get better in next year. And again, the problem with the quarterback position is it's so demanding so quickly. If you don't get it within the first year, then you're probably going to be traded for a 6th round pick. You know what I mean? Like it's just the Eddie Murphy. What have you done for me lately? Like that's literally where they go. And so I don't think in the first round, just because I think they have way too many needs to address, especially if they're going to swap to 3-4. You got to have defensive players. They don't have the personnel to do it right now. Like I think they could say, oh, well, we do have some people. They don't have the personnel to run a 3-4 right now. And so I think they got to really invest in that. But quarterback in the first round, they hadn't done it since Archie Manning. I don't see that changing anytime soon.
That goes to my theory. I still believe some way, somehow, if we ever do draft a quarterback again in the first round, it needs to be Arch Manning. It needs to be a full circle moment. It needs to be poetic. It would be the highest selling Saints jersey of all time if Arch Manning were. I think the only jersey that would sell more than an Arch Manning jersey off a hype would be if Drew Brees' kid played in the NFL and became a New Orleans Saint. Like a Brees, little Brees jersey would be crazy. Every year it seems like quarterbacks come out of nowhere, right? Like it was Cam and it was Shador. That was the hype throughout the whole college season. Now, all of a sudden, but watch out for Jalen Milroe. Watch out for Jackson Dart. Suddenly, these are hot commodities at quarterback. This is my opinion. I'm in agreement with you. Like, I don't think we need to just grab a quarterback because, we're top 9, we're top 10 this year, so we need a quarterback for the future. Let's grab one. I want one that they absolutely, for sure, believe can be the guy for the next 10 plus years. It'll be interesting because I think a lot of what you've been saying lately in the past 10 minutes, John, is not going to go over, I guess, too well because, fans are rabid. Like, I'm one of the fans with the platform I have. I take a lot of heat. Like, I'm just not harsh on Carr. Do I love him? No. Like, do I think he's going to be a guy that can ever bring us to prominence? No. He's the same Carr that he was in Vegas and Oakland to me. I'm like, all he did was put on black and gold laundry. Why are y'all acting so shocked that he's Derek Carr? So I get a lot of heat from that from people sometimes. Like, because you got to hate Derek Carr. You love Derek Carr. I'm like, well, you could kind of play it down the middle, but just going by your stance. And I agree because I feel like with all the needs we have, one, you got to build your team through the lines, and we definitely need O-line and D-line help, even though I know an O-line pick will not be very popular with fans if we pick an O-lineman again as a top 10 pick. But two, I just haven't seen anything from any of these quarterbacks to be like, just because we got Derek Carr, we got to draft one. It's going to be interesting, John. It's going to be very interesting. And you mentioned about him not coming to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. I'm of the opinion, damn if you do, damn if you don't, because if he did come down and do stuff, people would have still been hating on him, saying, we don't want that guy in New Orleans or whatever. But he wasn't. So now fans are like, this guy does not embrace New Orleans. And I kind of feel like he should have been down no matter what, because you are the quarterback of the whole city at the Super Bowl. But it just seems like he's never going to win over fans unless he wins a Super Bowl. And he might win a Super Bowl with the Saints, and fans will still hate him. They're like, but he didn't do what Drew Brees did. It's going to be interesting, John. You are definitely giving me some input that I was not expecting, I guess, because I kind of had a whole different form of thinking of what our offseason was going to look like. So to hear some of this stuff from you definitely has me a little bit more intrigued on maybe what the direction of the New Orleans Saints is going. We got a comment from my guy, Bruce St. John, who says he wouldn't put it past the Saints to keep Derek Carr, but he asked you, John, would he be able to fit in Kellen Moore's offense? His scheme requires much more mobility at quarterback than what we know Derek Carr has. I kind of agree with that as well, John. Like Kellen Moore is used to guys like Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts who can move around a bit and make plays happen with their feet when push comes to shove. Derek Carr obviously is not that guy. Say the Saints do keep Derek Carr. Do you think that him and Kellen Moore would be a good fit, or would it be like a Russell Wilson and Sean Payne situation in Denver where Sean Payne did it for 1 year. By November, he was like, nope, Russ, thanks for the memories. We're moving on. We'll start the young guy at quarterback. Do you see something like that happening where maybe Kellen Moore does give Derek Carr a shot in like what could be used as a bridge year for the Saints? And then by November, December, he says, all right, now let's see what Spencer Rattler has.
I mean, I think that's probably what would happen, right? And the thing is, when Kellen Moore said in his introductory press conference, he said it doesn't matter whether he throws it 50 times or runs it 50 times. He just wants to be able to stress out the defense and making sure that they're thrown off. And so, again, I get it that, some of these other quarterbacks have their advantages over Derek Carr, right? Like Derek Carr is not that mobile presence, right? And so I think it's what people like the Milrow or Dart or whatever the case may be. And I got to remember, you got to have an offensive line for these people, right? Like it doesn't matter who you take. It's just even if it's Spencer Rattler back there, like you saw the revolving door in the offensive line and such that happened. They got to get better on the interior. I think they're okay at tackle. And of course they're okay at Eric McCoy, but Cesar Ruiz, he kind of had a little bit of a down year and he's going to be the first to admit that. And so they got to find a left guard for sure. I don't believe in drafting them, but look, I think if they do stick with Derek Carr, then they're going to try to make it work. But I think that, eventually the goal could be to go to Spencer Rattler. But I think it's fascinating because I think Spencer Rattler could be the guy that runs it similar to what a Dak Prescott does or a Jalen Hurts, but not because he's just mobile. But I think you got to have quick decisions. You got to make those decisions and you have to learn it. And the biggest thing with the rookie going from their first year to their second year, everything that they say, bar none, you listen to it in training camp, mini camp, all that, the game slows down for them, right? Like they're processing stuff at 1,000 miles an hour. The game slows down for them, so they should get better.
We also have another comment from my best friend / co-host on the show. He's forewarning, John. He's a toxic positivity guy. So even during these past 3 years of insanity from the Saints, he was always on the show saying, well, guess what, guys? It's December and we're still in the hunt. So he's asking you, and I feel like this is an unfair question because we don't even know like how the team makeup looks going into 2025, but put on your Nostradamus hat. He asked John, do you think we will be in the hunt for the playoffs in 2025?
I mean, I think they can get close. You know what I mean? Like, I think they can contend because the NFC is not that good, right? Like, I think that's just where you're looking at. And so,
hold on, not to interrupt, but I feel like we say that every year. Like, the NFC is not that good. I mean, how long can we say that though before the NFC finally does take that leap?
They'll do it. But I'm saying what I mean by that is that you got two real top tier teams, right? Like Detroit and Philly is who I'd say. Washington's making the push, I think, from the argument, right? But San Francisco was there last year and they fell off a cliff, right? Like that's the thing. And Green Bay kind of hovered on this thing and some of these other teams. I just think there's opportunity within that. Before the season started, I know it's going to hurt people, but I picked Tampa to win the division, right? Like I just thought nobody's going to do it. I didn't buy into the Atlanta hype. I said it was only a matter of time before Kirk Cousins was going to turn into a pumpkin. And by God, that's what happened. And so it's just, again, but it's hard because again, you're just an opinion. You saw all this other stuff, but I just feel like the Saints, if they can beat some of these other teams, that's always been their problem. They cannot beat a team that's better than them. They just have not been able to. And again, can you beat a Buffalo? Can you beat a Miami? Can you beat some of these teams that are supposedly better than you? Can you go into Seattle and beat Seattle? If they can do that and show me early on in the season, great. But I'm not going to get excited that they beat Caleb Williams and the Bears and run up the score on Dennis Allen. I'm just not, right? Like I just don't think that's my particular line of thought. But look, the thing is, and Bill Belichick said this a long time ago. Sean Payton actually said this too, but the season starts after Thanksgiving. That's when the real season starts. So it doesn't matter what you do in the beginning. If you can get into a position where you're hovering there, the team that hits fire and kind of heats up there is the one that's going to be in the postseason. So if they're hovering around like a 6-6 or maybe a 5-7, they got a chance. And so that's what I'd say. It's going to be important on where they're at when that time hits.
John, I just want to thank you because, as you see, my guy Ziggy says you can't tell him nothing now that you said that the Saints have a shot. So I just want to
Tell
know,
me a chance.
thanks to you, John. Ziggy's going to be insufferable this whole offseason. Like, you and Ross are too damn positive sometimes, man. Y'all be giving
Sometimes.
my guy Ziggy like that battery in his back to say, okay, I'm gonna show Saints fans that you can still be optimistic. I need a little bit more negative. I'm joking, John. I'm joking.
Yeah.
Great answer. I appreciate your input, honestly. This is very insightful for me and a lot of guys in the chat right now. Shout out to over 600 people watching right now because of the John Hendrix stimulus. Make sure y'all follow John Hendrix on all his platforms. Y'all see the name below right there, especially next week because John Hendrix is going to be at the Combine. It's going to be a very, very critical draft for the future of the New Orleans Saints. John, you are going to the Combine next week. I can't wait to see all of your intel and articles from that. Do you have a sense, even if it's a personal preference, who would you target in the draft at number 9 for the New Orleans Saints going into the Combine?
I mean, if you go off my latest mock draft pick, I said Ashton Genty. That's just who I was.
Can I interrupt?
Go for it.
I'm not going to be mad because I know running backs are real sexy, but I feel like the state of the Saints right now, we don't need a running back in the first round unless it's like the next on Barry Sanders or something. That's my argument. I like Jeffrey, but I feel like there's going to be good running backs in 2026. There's going to be good running backs in 2027. Why are we drafting a running back now? Especially John. See, I can see if we were in contention and like, oh, they could be an NFC championship team next year. Okay, get a running back who could probably, be that Saquon Barkley difference maker. It's kind of like Bijan Robinson in Atlanta right now. Great player, but the Falcons aren't contending, and that's 2 years already of wear and tear on Bijan Robinson's body for a team that wasn't close to contending. Maybe next year they will. Knock on wood, they're not. I hate the Falcons, but so sell me at least. All right, I'm glad you said it. Sell me on us drafting a running back. When you literally just say, John, we have so many problems. Sell me on how a running back at number 9 is going to make the Saints better going forward.
Sure, and then I will also just say, side note, Teddy Ora McMillan from Arizona would be my alternate pick, and then Mason Graham of Michigan. Those would be the other sides I look at. But look, a running back, Kellen Moore, running offense. I mean, if you look at the way the Eagles ran their offense, and I wrote an article about Kellen Moore and just kind of dissecting what the Eagles were doing, you look at their run and a run game. I mean, they were only averaging maybe 180 yards passing a game, which wasn't great, but they were averaging way more when it comes to rushing. I mean, they were one of the top 5 teams, and Baltimore was one, Philly was another. And of course, you're looking at Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, you're looking at Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, but you look down the list a little bit, Tampa's right there at number 5, I believe is what they have. They have Bucky Irving and Rashad White. So that's kind of where I'm looking and leaning, is the boom and zoom factor, kind of like that's just kind of what I'm seeing there in that sense. And look, Kendre Miller just hasn't been able to put it together, right? Like I know he wants to. He got a raw end of the deal last year about getting put on IR and all this other crap. But starting fresh, right? I think Kendre Miller can be something special, but he's got to be available. And the biggest thing is they need somebody who's available. And of course, Jamal Williams probably not going to be here. You know what I'm saying? Like that would make sense. And so I look at the running back room, and I think that's an area where you can get better. And if you can improve the trenches, if you can get better on the offensive line, and you can run the ball down somebody's throat, hit him with Alvin, and creative in the passing game and the run game, but then get somebody like Genty as a changeup or something. I like that concept because I think they need to establish tempo, which is something Kellen Moore talked about, and control the ball, which is something that, you can do when you have an effective run game. And I think they've got some of the pieces that can get an effective run game. They just need somebody like him who's going to have the vision, the power, and put it all together. I just think that that's where it's at. And again, maybe it's not the pick. That was my last mock. It's going to change because we haven't hit free agency, all that other stuff. But I think there's an argument to be made for a few different ones, but I just like him. I think he's somebody, it's kind of like that generational talent, right? And so I think he's somebody special.
Look, don't get me wrong with me just being anti-running back. I think he's talent too. If we draft him, I will be screaming this shit more than the game to him to the moon. I just feel like the state of where our franchise is.
Yep.
I would go running back. I mean, I like Cam Scatterbull. He sold me during the college football play. Like, I want fun players, and don't get me wrong, Jeffrey's a fun player, so I'm not going to be mad if we take him. I'm like, oh, you could get Scatterbull, not that Scatterbull is on the same level as Jeffrey, but you get Magenti, excuse me, later in the draft, saying, you still get kind of that running back that is versatile, like Kellen Moore likes, and you get him later, and you get a fun player out of it. It's going to be interesting to see, John. I know that, it's kind of putting you on the spot because it's only February, right? Like, there's going to be so much that comes out in these next few weeks, starting next week when you're at the combine, where you get even more intel, and you'll be able to say, okay, now I know what kind of more where the Saints are leaning towards, what they're trying to do, that your pick might change up until April. But all that to say, we are very much – go ahead.
I got to say one other thing, too. The other part of that thought process is Taysom Hill. You're not going to get him on the field probably till October is probably the best case, maybe late September. And of course, his future is in question. That was the only other caveat, is they're saying that's a major part of the Saints run game. And that was another reasoning why I thought about him too. So
gut reaction, is Taysom Hill a Saint in 2025?
I think they'll make it work. I think, all the things that you're seeing out there, it's all speculation. Check back next week. We'll have more of an idea. I guarantee you.
I'm annoying because I'm one of those fans that say we need to rebuild. But then I'm like, but I don't want to lose Cam. I don't want to lose DeMarco. I don't want to lose Taysom. So I'm one of those annoying fans.
It hurts.
Damn, like, you grow accustomed to these players. That's why I'm a fan, and I'm not, a suit on airline drive that needs to make these tough decisions. A suit that is on airline drive, John, is Mickey Loomis. And I just, let's be honest, he's not the most popular guy in New Orleans right now. I think the only person who's probably not as popular as him is Derek Carr. So I ask you, though, because I don't know, maybe I'm just too soft to say I missed this shit more than the game. Like, I'm balanced when it comes to Derek Carr takes. I feel like I'm balanced when it comes to Mickey Loomis. Do I think that he deserves heat? Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like him and a lot of those people in the front office deserve heat. Do I think that he's the worst GM of all time and that we have absolutely no future with him? No. I'm willing to be – this is what I always say. Okay, he brought in Sean Payne and Drew Brees. I know a lot of fans tell me that was 18 years ago, John. I get that. Okay, but that was a home run hire. He struck out with Dennis Allen. That's 1-1. I'm giving him a third shot, which is now Kellen Moore. I'm willing to see what he can do with Kellen Moore. And, in 3-4 years, we'll have a much better understanding of where Kellen Moore is as a head coach and if it's really time for Mickey Loomis to go. I know a lot of fans don't want to hear that. They say, no, Mickey Loomis needs to go now. I'm asking for your opinion on Mickey Loomis. I'm not going to put you on the seat like that. But I do want to ask, just from a fan perspective, and you get a lot of it, John. You have a huge Saints platform. You hear from a lot of Saints fans. Do you personally feel like fans are being too hard on Mickey Loomis, or do you think that it's a bit valid?
No, I think there's truth in both of them. I think that when you look, it started the criticism, right? So the Saints do all this stuff, right? And clearly he wasn't a fan of firing Dennis Allen, right? I think he would rather him finish out the season. I think that was kind of one of the last straws for fans, right? Like, you didn't want him gone, like, and then you said at the end it's an organizational decision. I understand that. Like, I get that. That's a reason to be frustrated. I think where things have really kind of taken its turn is because they have this operation again that they believe they can compete in the NFC South. And you were talking about at the top of the show when you were doing your monologue, right? And it's saying about the kick in the can, all this other stuff for the Saints. The criticism is valid when it doesn't work, and it hasn't worked for the Saints. So all of this stuff, and here's the thing, Mickey Loomis's philosophy is, if I could spend $1 here, that dollar price is going to go up every year, right? Like, if I spent $1 and do all this stuff 5 years ago, then it's going to be way more expensive here. And so that's kind of why he makes some of those moves the way he does and the way they think about it. And so I would just say that when he's ready to step away, he'll step away. And that's the thing is, and he's not stepping away because I've been told before that he wouldn't be opposed to doing a rebuild or anything like that. But again, I think this is a critical year for him because you haven't been in the playoffs. Clearly, there's some directions that this team has gone that, you remember last year. Let's go back to last season, not the one that's just fresh, but the season before that, you have this players meeting with Dennis Allen and Mickey's kind of in the building, and it's kind of like reinforcing Mickey in the locker room, and it's kind of just like reaffirming that get behind Dennis Allen, right? Be with the program or don't. That didn't go over well with the players, right? And so that was the thing that I think you look at, that they tried to give every ounce of support to Dennis Allen that they could, and it just didn't work, and they wanted to make it work. but it didn't. And so I think he's extremely smart, right? I think he's super intelligent. The way he has things, his philosophy is built from the trenches within. There's a lot of good football IQ there. I just think at this point, you've got to win football games and you've got to make some good personnel decisions. And I think some of the personnel decisions the Saints have made are valid, scrutiny, it's valid scrutiny for them. Right. And I think when you look at that and compare them to like a Howie Roseman or somebody like that, who always makes things work and turns crap into gold, it's easy to look at that. But, look, I think he's extremely smart. He's good at what he does. He knows what he's doing. He's got the right people working alongside him, and Kai Harley and Jeff Ireland, all those guys, and Michael Parrington, all those guys in the front office. It's just, you got to win. You got to win this season. You got to you got to turn the ship around. And I think at this point, I think there's some things to be said, like, was that Kellen Moore's decision to bring back Brendan Nugent? I don't know that question or the answer to that question right now. You know what I'm saying? Or was it Mickey Loomis? And I think as we look at some of these player decisions, that's the real thing that I'm looking at. Is this more of a Kellen Moore decision, or is he getting and leaning on Mickey Loomis for the input? That's something that I think we got to pay attention to.
Which I wouldn't be mad at. I know fans would go outrageous over it, but I don't mind a head coach and a GM who trust each other and lock and step with each other. But that would, if it doesn't work out, like you say, we're not winning. Oh boy, that would be another hit on Loomis's resume, I would say, if they say, oh, he has some input in Kellen's staff, and let's say 3 years from now, Kellen Moore and it isn't working out and doesn't look any optimism going forward. John, is the Saints organization structure that Loomis actually would ever have fear that he could lose his job? Or is he just so tight with this family-like atmosphere that Gail and the team has created that he's never going to be on the hot seat until he says, I'm ready to retire?
I would just say, first of all, that will stuff is, you can throw that crap out the window. I've seen that, all the stuff. Like, it's just a thing where people make that big deal, all this stuff. No, look, I think the hot seat was there a little bit more last year. And again, the unwillingness to kind of be like, I didn't really feel like I was on board with getting rid of Dennis Allen. And the fact that for all intents and purposes, Gail went above him, right? Like Gail was the owner and just kind of said, well, I'm going to source this from players. I'm going to source this from fans, and I'm going to make this decision. And so I think that was a little bit of a, maybe sobering moment, I guess, if you will. But again, I look at it, if it gets bad enough, maybe you see the hot seat a little bit more, but I think he's here to stay until he wants to hang it up in some aspects, but he's going to know the time to hang it up. But I just want to see him support Kellen Moore the way he did Dennis Allen, but support him even better and more, and give him the tools that he needs to do his job and just really do his job, because I think Kellen Moore is going to prove to be a much better leader for the organization and represent them better than what Dennis Allen did. He ain't going to apologize for running up the score on the Falcons.
He better not. We love them until they give us a reason not to love them.
That's right. That's right.
It's going to be so interesting, John. Your input today definitely has my mind a lot more smart, but also like open to, okay, this is going to be not exactly how old Jono thought that things were going to be headed in the Saints direction. I cannot wait. I cannot wait for you to be in the combine next week, so we can get your on the field and in the building analysis of all the things that you're seeing from the Saints, that you're hearing from the Saints, that you're seeing from all of the prospects that we are going to be looking at now for these next 2 months with magnifying glasses to see if they can be a contributor to the Saints for the next decade or so. I am so excited. It's going to be a great time, John. We appreciate all of your Saints input, but you're not done, John. You're not done. This is the John O'Bourne Show. We don't have you on just to talk Saints. No, we got a lot more to talk about too, John. So, John, I have a question for you, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot. Like, I really am sorry to put you on the spot like this. I don't know if you are good at math. I wasn't good at math, but I have a question for you, John. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. John Hendrix walks into Bucees with $100 and says he only is going to get a bag of chips and a drink. How much money does John Hendrix walk out of Bucees with? Because if you know, as John Hendrix said himself, if you know, you know. So John Hendrix walks into Bucees with $100 and says, all I'm getting is a bag of chips and a drink. How much money is John Hendrix walking out of Bucees with?
I'm probably walking nowadays. I'm probably walking about $75. So I will spend a good bit at Buc-ee's. There's certain things that I like at Buc-ee's. The chips are one of them. There's got some good sandwiches, but they have these dark chocolate almonds. Got to get those. I got to get some stuff for the kids, all this other crap. Their beef jerky, all this stuff. In the past, we've spent, like, as a family, we've spent about 60, $65 in there easily on one trip when we're going to the beach. But, and you know, the worst part is they're opening that one over in Mississippi. That's going to be right, like you got to throw a rock at it, basically. So that ain't going to do any good with it. But I'd say right now, and I'd probably walk out with, you know, at least $75 because I'm gonna spend some money in Buc-ee's because there's certain things that they have. I gotta have. I can't get anywhere else, so I gotta get it.
Nah, that's not 75 is actually good because I'm a Buc-ee's man myself, John.
Okay, yeah.
More
All
than
right.
a gas station, right?
Yeah.
So
that's
look,
right.
you can flip the question. Ask me that same question. Say, John, how much money would you if you walk into Buc-ee's with $100? John, how much money would you walk out of with?
So, Jono, if you go into Buc-ee's, you got $100, $100 bill, fresh, crisp.
Yes.
How much you walking away with after you go into Buc-ee's?
I am walking away with $100 because I'm going to use my wife's credit card. Learn from me, John.
There you go.
Here's another hot seat question, John. You have a lot of uproots in Lafayette, Louisiana. I see Lafayette Twitter all the time, almost like jealousy, saying our food is just as good as New Orleans. John, you already probably had some hot takes about Derek Carr and Mickey Loomis that might get fans a little bit. So I'm just forewarning you. I'm going to ask you this question, though. Who has better food, John, Lafayette or New Orleans?
Man, look, I will tell you, I grew up in Lafayette, and I will say this. One of my first experiences was I had a Cajun neighbor. He was an Olivier, okay? Not Oliver, Olivier. And one of the first experiences, he was cooking a pot of jambalaya in the big, giant, like, witch's brew tub. You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you, something about Cajuns, like true Cajuns in Lafayette, when you go to those places in Lafayette, Broussard, Youngsville, any of those surrounding areas, Rain, you know, Crowley, all that stuff, you can't beat that food, man. I love New Orleans. I love you to death. I love your food, but I got to side with my Lafayette roots. Lafayette.
John,
Totally.
you're supposed to come on this show like to make new fans and supporters.
I'm sorry, I can't. Look, hey, you know what? You see this Ice Gators jersey in the background? Like, that's Lafayette roots.
So no, another question. I noticed that. You know, we saw the reports about the NHL team, and this is from Kevin Weeks isn't like some Joe Blow reporter. Like, he has boots on the ground with the NHL saying that leaders in New Orleans, who are these leaders we still don't know, met with NHL top brass to discuss having an NHL team in New Orleans. Do you actually think? I've seen a lot of people saying no, that has no momentum attraction to it whatsoever. Do you actually? Well, one, I know you actually will want it, but does that excite you, like having an NHL team possibly in New Orleans? Do you think it's actually possible?
Oh God, I'd pee my pants if they had an NHL team. Like, I'd love it, but I have more realistic shot of getting a couple of Bitcoins than it is probably for an NHL team. I think there's just too many logistics there. I mean, maybe they could play in the Smoothie King Center. I don't know. I mean, there's just a lot of logistics there for it. I would think other markets are better suited for hockey, and I follow hockey. I'm a huge Detroit Red Wings fan. You could probably see it behind the Joby little thing right here. But like, I just feel like there's other markets that would support a hockey team. I mean, if you look at minor league hockey teams, Baton Rouge has one, and so does Biloxi. They're doing just fine. I'd be okay with just a semi-pro team just to test it out. But NHL, if that ever happens, I might have to leave the Saints and just go cover hockey.
Oh, no, we don't want to lose you to the.
Not really, but
No, I get it. Hey, I'll be excited, but yeah, I kind of have that sensible reaction too after like the optimism and excitement of seeing a tweet like that. Then you're like, well, how in the hell is it going to work in New Orleans when, to be honest, John, we kind of barely support the Pelicans as it is. But one thing, fanaticism is built off of its hope. So hey, I saw that tweet. I said, you know what? I'll have a little hope until they give me a reason not to have hope. John, when it comes to Halloween, this shit is really more than a holiday to you, because if you guys see, John takes his Halloween duties very, very seriously. Look at John. Ain't nothing low key about that low key costume. That's a double entendre. So, John, I know it's early. I know we're in Mardi Gras mode, but you might have some intel, being that you're the person I'm actually interviewing and talking about. Do you have, can you give us an exclusive here on the John O'Bone Show about where John Hendrix might be leaning towards his 2025 Halloween costume? You seem to be going, with the Star Wars, Marvel, maybe Disney realm of costumes. Are you leaning that way this year, or are you going to shock people and maybe throw us a curveball for Halloween 2025?
Man, I like certain things, when it comes to costumes, right? Like I loved putting that Boba Fett costume on. The Loki one was pretty awesome, although Halloween was hot, so that was kind of miserable sweating through that crap. The other one was nice. I don't know. I don't know which way direction. I thought about, honestly, if I didn't go Loki this year, I was trying to do Doctor Strange. I had
Mm,
I've grown my hair out and all this stuff. Like
yeah,
there
you
was
got
something I
the
was trying to
goatee.
do. I mean, you ain't never seen a Hispanic Doctor Strange, but you know what I'm saying? Maybe in some type of multiverse, this is possible.
That's
I
all you got to
mean,
say. Multiverse.
well, yeah, see, multiverse or something, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know. I'm not sure. I like to have fun with it and having kids. My kids' boys are 7-11,
Mm.
7 and 11, not the gas station, but
This shit more than a gas station.
yeah, man. So I like trying to, like I'm enjoying Halloween a lot more because I get to dress up and have fun with it.
That's
So I don't
awesome.
know. Keep you posted. That's a
That's
good one.
awesome. We will be on our hands
Ends and needles.
yeah, we'll be pins and needles. See, that's why you're the writer, and I'm not. I've been thinking of things in my head, but I'm like, wait a minute, what am I trying to go with this? You're awesome, John. John, thank you so much, man, for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the John O'Brien Show, have a little fun with us, and of course, talk Saints football. Again, we cannot wait to see all of your coverage from the combine, from the draft later on, and then of course the offseason and all of the things that are going to come about this Kellen Moore era. Can you tell people? I mean, I have your handle at the bottom right there, but can you also tell people where they can follow you or where they can look for some of your work?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna give you a story after I promote that too, just because wrestling, you appreciate it. But so go to on our YouTube show, Ross and I do Second and Saints. So go check that out. We haven't done a lot lately just because the thing's been crazy, but that's gonna kick back up. Got some interesting things coming down the pipeline, so stay tuned there too. And then Athlon Sports. That's our new venture that I've got going on. It's a Saint site. Please support us because it's really just trying to get it up off the ground, type thing. But much better gig, much better thing for me, and so I'm
Good.
really excited. And of course, you see the Twitter. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Instagram. I'm on all the
And
platforms.
everything.
The social. I'm on TikTok. All that crap. So just remember, it's Hendrix, just like Jimmy, not like the gin. That's the best tagline
I
to
like
have.
that. I
Now,
like that.
my quick little story, because you got Stone Cold in the background. So I grew up, I was the Attitude Era, right? Like that
Me
was
too.
my thing. So Stone Cold is definitely my favorite wrestler. But growing up is the
Mm.
biggest deal when Lafayette got to host a Raw, right? Like that was like unheard of that, that WWF would ever come at the time. WWF would ever come. And so my shirt that I got, that I sported and proudly sported when I'm like, I don't know, 13, 14 years old, is an Acolyte shirt, right? The APA, the
APA, yeah,
APA.
you know.
Farouk and Bradshaw. Don't take this ass whooping personally, son. And that was one of my favorite ones, but always have a soft spot for that wrestling. I find myself just on YouTube watching old wrestling matches. Like I could watch the Stone Cold saves this person, that person, or whatever. But I got to say, one of my favorites of all time, it was in The Rock came out with Mankind or Mick Foley, and then he does the little thing on Ric Flair and gives a little dance and stuff. That's probably one of my favorite
Woo!
things of all time.
Wrestling is great, man. I don't know if you heard, WrestleMania is like 95% chance coming to New Orleans
Mm.
next year. So New Orleans is on the road right now. I cannot wait for that. I'm glad that Stone Cold, it made everything for the past hour, John, waiting for you to say Stone Cold is your favorite wrestler. That's the thing I'm going to clip and just put on Twitter. I know
There you
my
go.
audience isn't wrestling fans, but everybody needs to know the greatness of Stone Cold.
You don't have wrestling the way it is without what Hulk Hogan did before,
Of course.
and then what Stone Cold did afterwards. Him and The Rock are
Him
the
and The Rock,
ones.
yep.
Those two are, and then later it was like John Cena and
Yeah,
Undertaker. But
Cena. I
Stone
love
Cold,
Cena, but there's levels, and I think
yeah,
Hogan,
no,
Rock,
there's
and
different levels
I've
because
got so
what.
many debates about that. But go ahead.
Yeah, the boss versus wrestler, like the employee boss thing, that was the best angle they could ever go, and I mean it worked. Like him hitting Vince McMahon with a bedpan in the like hospital. Come on, bro, you can't beat that.
No, for
Nobody's
real.
gonna ever top that.
Shout out to our parents, John, for letting us watch. Maybe they didn't realize what was actually going on TV, but shout out to our parents for letting us watch the Attitude Era, because kids probably should not have been watching the Attitude Era. But shout out to my parents and shout out to your parents for letting us watch the Attitude Era, because that was the greatest wrestling era of all time, and it helped mold me into the man that I've become today. So shout out to our parents for sure. And John, shout out to you. One last thing, man. One thing that this shit more than the game expands beyond sports, and health is wealth. when it comes to this shit more than the game community. And I just want to applaud you, John, for your weight loss journey. One, it is extremely brave for you to put yourself out there like that to showcase your journey with your huge audience. But two, for you to put in the work that you've been putting in to try to lose weight, man. I hope you know how many people see that, are inspired by that, how many people applaud you for the journey that you've been on. And you are kicking ass, my brother, for that alone. Never mind your Saints Association, never mind you coming on the John O'Bone Show. For that alone, John, you are this shit more than the game certified. And I hope you know that we got your back and we're rooting for you, my guy. Keep doing the damn thing when it comes to your health, and keep doing the damn thing when it comes to your career, my guy.
Appreciate that, man. I really do. And look, this shit's more than a pod. This shit's more than a stream. It's more than a game, man. I really appreciate you and having me on. And I'm just glad we got to connect. Just a quick story that he was just beside himself that I gave him my phone number. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, I'm just a regular dude, y'all. Like, I mean, I just cover this team.
You know, well, for me, John, you don't understand. Like, little old John has this platform where, like, you know, great reporters like you and Ross Underhill, like, give y'all time to me, man. Rod Walker, I could go on and on. Like, that wow, blows my mind that, you know, little John, you know, is doing something substantial enough to have people like you in his network to share your time and expertise. I do not take that for granted. So, yeah, I was damn excited when me and you finally connected, you know, off of social media. And now I have a good friend in you. And maybe we'll go watch WrestleMania in the Superdome next year.
You never know. You never know.
Look, go ahead.
I was going to say, and look, this is what I would say too. When I cut my teeth in this journey, I took a non-traditional route. Like, you went down all the things that I had. I literally started from the ground up. And I just worked. Like, I didn't go to school for all of this. I worked. And one of the reasons why I got that 51 up there, Vilma, is that is the first player I ever interviewed in 2014. It was a Morton Steakhouse. And I'm telling you, he's the nicest dude ever. And like, that just changed my life, just the way he was with me, because he knew I was a little bit nervous, all this other stuff. I still got a picture with him. But, you know, look, again, everybody starts somewhere. And you grow and you grow and you grow. And I'm a firm believer you pay it forward, man. Like, I never forget where I came from. Like, I was at the bottom of the boot long time ago. And so I just think that doesn't matter how big your show is, how small your show is. I mean, let's talk shop. You know what I mean? As long as it works.
Something about them Jonathans, huh, John? Something about them.
That's Jonathans. It. That's something about it. Humbleness, right?
You say that, and you know, people who are just casually watching may not understand this more than me. But again, I'm not media. I'm not traditional media. I'm not trying to be media. Sure. I'm a fan who turned on the camera one day, screamed this shit more than the game. Somehow, a lot of the city of New Orleans, the state of Louisiana, resonated with that. You know, and I feel it's true. Like, you know, reporters like you could be like, oh, look at this kid, you know, like I work my ass off, and here he comes, you know, does some corny skits, and he's getting this huge audience and whatnot. And a lot of reporters could be like, nah, I'm not, you know, giving my time or giving any validity to that guy. But y'all have been so just generous and welcoming and, you know, awesome with how you guys have treated me and shared my stuff to give me more Saints fans eyeballs on me, man. I hope you know good karma does come around, and that is why you continue to soar in your career, my guy. So thank you again. Know that you are this shit more than the game certified. And before I let you go, is Ross Jackson an asshole? Come on, you tell us, between me and you.
Not at all, man. Not at all. So look, hey, again, that's the thing is, if you ever see us out and about, I hope they have training camp in Metairie this year. I don't know. I'm not really certain that they're going to do that, but we'll see. But always say, hey, I mean, I got the time of day and all that, but no, Ross is good people, man. Ross is fun, man. If you ever hung out with Ross for more than 2 seconds, you just see he's hilarious.
You and Ross are awesome. I'm so glad that y'all joined together like the Avengers to do a great show. I'll watch it as much as I possibly can. Make sure everybody check that out. John, tell them where they can follow you and Ross's show at.
Yeah, it's at Second and Saints on YouTube. So again, we kind of haven't been doing much, but we're getting back in the thick of it. So it's coming. Don't worry.
Y'all will. Draft time. I know y'all gonna be coming with that content. Coming with that content like Bucky's comes with them sandwiches, John. I know. I'm ready. We ready.
Hey, their breakfast is good. Their breakfast, man. Every time of the day, it's got some good stuff.
John Hendrix, can you tell everybody why you joined the John O'Bone Show tonight?
Because this shit is more than a game.
John, We appreciate you, my guy. We'll be looking forward to your coverage all off season and regular season, and we cannot wait to have you back on the show again, my guy. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Have a good one. All the best. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Putting up with what I have to say. Always.
So, what do you like to do?
John, we've been together for 8 years. What are you talking about? I like being outside. I like going for walks. I like working out. I like hanging out with my dog.
Hey, it's a cute dog. What's the name?
Jono, that's shady. You named her. We have had her for 5 years. What are you talking about?
Hey, don't you got like a birthday coming up or something?
Yes, Jono. March. Every year.
Yeah. It's after the Super Bowl because I would never marry somebody with a birthday during the football season.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, you have like any hobbies or anything? I like sports. Shit more than the game. Let's give it up one more time for the great John Hendrix. Just an awesome guy, and we were very happy to have him on the John Boy Show. You guys showed out in the chat, man. I appreciate all of you guys. We have over 725 people across all platforms who tuned in for John Hendrix's analysis on the Saints and had a little fun with us as well, man. That's awesome. You guys are awesome. You all are this shit more than the game certified. You guys give me the motivation to bring on great reporters like John Hendrix going forward to give you guys the content and Saints talk. And maybe even past Saints talk, like, maybe we'll open up the audience more for NFL talk, sports talk in general, city talk. You guys deserve all of that and then some. So thank you guys for showing out. Now, the show is not over yet. There is some things I want to talk about before we wrap up. I don't know if you guys might have saw or not, but as much as there's a little bit of hope and optimism with the New Orleans Saints right now, that franchise sometimes, man, they can throw a big old bag of bricks at your sunshine of hope because the Saints, y'all, after winning 5 games last year, you want to count them. 1, you count them on one hand, 2, 3, 4, 5. The Saints won 5 games last year, and still, for the 3rd year in a row, I think that could be 4th, they raised their season ticket prices. Now, I have been a season ticket holder for going on 23 years right now, and I love this team, but I say this often: do not take my unwavering support for unwavering stupidity. Mind you, I'm saying all this right now, and I'm the biggest hypocrite because I'm going to pay the Saints, even though they raised their season ticket prices, so I can have season tickets for the 2025 season. But damn, man. I just don't, and then the letter that they sent to us season ticket holders, they ain't even addressed the price hike. Like, shit, I get annoyed when Netflix and Disney Plus and all of them raise their prices, but at least they put out an email saying, hey, we're raising the prices. The Saints didn't even say that in the letter. They were just like, we love y'all support, rah, PRBS. Here's the invoice. See y'all in September. I'm like, damn, can y'all at least not like treat me like I'm stupid and say, hey, yes, we're raising y'all prices up. Here's why. And I would have been mad either way, right? Like, oh no, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, now I feel better that they're raising my prices. But at least show your customer the respect and admiration for still giving them their money, even though that the on-field product has not been good for the past 4 years. At least show your audience some type of respect, some type of admiration. Like, don't treat the city of New Orleans because we're so damn loyal to this team as if we're just stupid as well. And so, I tweeted about it. I say the Saints ain't make the playoffs for 4 straight years, and they just had a 5-win season, and they raised my season ticket price. They got some goddamn nerve. Yeah. Somebody say they always read my tweets in my voice. So y'all can read this in my voice as I'm actually saying it out loud. But they know that my dumb ass is going to pay it. And honestly, I should just respect the gangster. And I do. I mean, look, I'm saying all this and I'm still going to be at the Superdome in September after they get my money cheering on the Saints. But because of you guys, I have a bit of a platform now. So you see, that's a little tweet that I put out. This was yesterday when I screenshotted this. Had 154,000 views. It's probably over 160,000 views. A lot of people obviously saw it. I would not be surprised if some of the suits on Airline Drive saw it. Not that the suits on Airline Drive give a damn about what John Barnes says. I'm not that naive or narcissistic to think that they check out John Barnes' content on a regular. But a tweet like that with 155,000 views, somebody saw it, right? Somebody saw it. So a few local media outlets actually came to me and they were like, do you want to talk about it? I'll be honest, y'all. For a split second, I was like, do I really want to make myself the face of a story like this? One, because like I even say in the tweet, I am a hypocrite. I'm going to pay it. I can yell about it all I want, but I'm going to pay it. So the Saints shouldn't give a damn about me yelling if I'm going to pay it. It's kind of like how we complain about Netflix and Disney Plus whenever they raise prices. And the execs at Netflix and Disney Plus are probably like, yeah, but we'll get y'all checks. So who gives a damn? I feel like a hypocrite, but at least I embrace my hypocrisy, right? So I got that going for me. I always tell y'all, I'm a hypocrite. I embrace it. I don't know why people don't embrace their hypocrisy enough, to be honest. But a few media outlets asked me to talk about it. And even though I had a split second of doubt, I said, you know what? I'll do it. I don't got to go on. Like, I'll tell y'all what, whenever I go on other platforms like our local media stations, you're not going to get the uncensored or unfiltered Jono Barnes. You're still going to get my true analysis, but I kind of polish it up a little bit, right? Because I'm not going to put any station or outlet in a bad spot because of my rawness. But on YouTube, on the Jono Barnes channel, and on Twitter, y'all get the raw Jono Barnes because I don't have to answer to nobody. It's my content, it's my profile, it's my page. I ain't got to worry about anybody or affecting anybody. Straight from the horse's mouth, right? So I went on Fox 8. You see what I told you when I say it's kind of a hard pill to swallow when you get your invoice every year. And even though we're not making the playoffs, the prices continue to go up. And that's not just the ticket prices, all that's the parking, that's the concessions, that's all of that. So let me show y'all a bit of my clip from the Fox 8 interview about the season ticket prices going up.
And that's a 15% increase over 5 years.
So it's kind of a hard pill to swallow when you get your invoice in every year, even though we're not making the playoffs, the prices continue to go up.
But at the end of the day,
I know that I am a bit of a hypocrite because when that due date comes, my invoice will be paid to the New Orleans Saints and they still get everything they want, which is fine. They know that the city loves the team. They know that it's more than a game down in New Orleans, but I just want to not feel like they are taking that for granted.
in New Orleans, Maddie Kurth, Fox 8, local first.
Hey, y'all like how I slipped in more than a game? If you know, you know. Also, hey, well, y'all saw I was wearing a purple shirt in the story. So why did Fox use this picture, man? I needed a haircut in that photo. I'm like, y'all could use it. There got to be better stock photos of Jono Barnes lying around for them to use better photos of me. But either way, a story like that probably y'all will not make me many friends, supporters on Airline Drive. I sincerely doubt that they are going to come knocking on my door and say, hey, Jono, you're awesome. Here, we're going to put you in our network and we'll get you some Saints players to come on your show. Or we'll get you Kellen Moore because we know you really want Kellen Moore on your show this year more than the game, right? You want Kellen Moore on your show. Nah, me putting myself out there like that on a story like that, now it's not that, again, the Saints are going to get their money, right? But they also don't want or certainly aren't doing backflips that there are stories out there now from local media about the season ticket prices being raised. They obviously would have preferred that it just kind of stayed under the radar and fans could yell about it on the internet stratosphere, but it doesn't make any headway where it kind of did. And Fox and a few other outlets wanted to make me the face of it. I'll do that for y'all. Again, I had that split second where I say, man, would I be risking any potential future guests or whatnot? But at the same time, I'm going to be honest with y'all. I've been doing this for 4 seasons now. The Saints never came to me and said, hey, Jono, we like what you're doing. We want to do something with you. I was a ball boy for the Pelicans for 13 years. Nobody in the Pelicans have ever come to me and say, Jono, you want to work together? This is almost like a seamless partnership. You're doing great things. Your platform is being big. You have a history with us. Let's do something together. So I told myself, shit. I've gone on the media on Fox 8 and other stations plenty of times and been super positive. Right. We love the Saints. I went on in September last year and said, give Derek Carr a shot. We're going to be excited about this season. That didn't give me no Saints support from the organization. So I was like, hell with that. I'm not going to hold back myself. One thing about John Barnes, y'all going to get 100% authenticity from me. I am never it got me this far. Let's say that, right? Like me being myself has got me this far. I don't hold back. And I'm never going to hold back to try to get into doors that can affect me or be positive for my content. I'm going to be myself. Myself has got me this far. We'll see what being myself gets me in the future. Even if it means I piss off the Saints and the other people on Airline Drive a few times. I'm not saying that I did. I don't know. I do know they know of me. Like, trust me, I've had a few conversations with people that I know that they know I exist. Am I saying, oh, they checking my content all the time? No, but God damn it, they probably know now this guy does have some traction to his name that, all I say is don't take this shit for granted. This shit more than a game for granted, Saints, because there's could be a negative side to it too. But I hope that y'all can appreciate that, I'm never going to sell my soul, I guess, if you want to say that, for access. I don't need access. Like I told John Hendrix, I'm not trying to be traditional media. I'm just going to be myself. This is a new wave of media, if you want to call it that. And as the Super Bowl taught me 2 weeks ago, I might not have all of the partners and the brands that's this shit more than the game certified yet. Hopefully they will be one day. But I know one thing I do have is the streets. I have the streets. And y'all gave me a goddamn voice. And I promise you guys, I am going to be the voice of the voiceless. I'm going to be the people's champ for the goddamn city of New Orleans, the state of Louisiana, and the Who Dat Nation. I can promise y'all that. I'm never going to hold my tongue back to try to make the Saints look better. If fans are pissed off, and I'm one of the people who actually agree with that opinion, because I'm not saying everything that I say is 100% correct, that y'all got to agree with everything I say when I go to media or on my platforms. But if goddamn, if I have a sense of the Who Dat Nation that they're pissed off about something, and they come to me, the media or other outlets or other content creators or other platforms and say, Johnny, you want to speak about it? I promise you guys, I'm never going to hold back for y'all. Even if it does make me some, I don't want to say enemies, but if it makes me some people who say, we never want to work with this guy, he's trashing us, And I'm not technically trashing him. I thought I was pretty, very fair and balanced in that interview. But I'm going to call a spade, and I'm never going to hold back my tongue for anybody. And I hope y'all can appreciate that, because I'm doing it for y'all. Because again, y'all gave me this huge platform. Y'all gave me this platform. And I promise you, I take that with 100% humility. I take that with pride, and I'm grateful every day for it. So I know that season ticket holders are pissed off about it. And if I have the platform to voice it, I'm going to do it. Even if it means now the Saints are going to laugh at me if I ever contacted their PR department and say, hey, maybe I could get Kellen Moore to come on my show. They're probably going to say, yeah, okay, John, get the hell out of here. But that's fine. That's fine. Because guess what? I had Eric McCoy on my show last year. And y'all, the Saints didn't help me with that. That was John Barnes doing John Barnes things and finding a way to get to Eric McCoy himself. I'll still try to find my ways to get Saints players on the show. Would I love to maybe work with the Saints or the Pelicans or other teams one day? Absolutely. I would be more than happy to. I love that team. I love both teams forever and always. But I'm not going to hold back. I am not going to hold back. I think them raising the season ticket prices was crazy. I think they should have used it as a PR way to say, you know what, we're going to freeze prices in 2025 because you guys have put up with a lot of bullshit on the field the past 4 years, and we're going to reward you guys that way. I'm not a happy camper. And yet, I'm a hypocrite because they're making me the face of the story, kind of, and I'm the one who's going to be still paying my season ticket invoice when there's a lot of people who have come to my page and say, you know what, John, I'm not paying at all. Maybe those are the ones who should be given the platform to talk about something like this, but I have it. And I'm going to be authentically myself. And I hope you guys can appreciate that. So, Saints, y'all want me to not complain about prices going up? Win some goddamn games or give me a reason to have hope. But don't feed me Derek Carr and Dennis Allen for the past 3 years and continue to raise my prices up and don't so much as even acknowledge it. Don't so much as even acknowledge that y'all raising prices. Just giving an invoice and saying, appreciate your support. Nah, that ain't very this shit more than the game certified of y'all. And I'm going to call it out when I call it out. Say a word from one of our sponsors. No matter what, we all know that this shit more than a game, and now you can wear it with pride. Visit www.jonobarnes.com or thisshitmorethanagame.com and buy your This Shit More Than a Game shirt now for the low price of $28.03. You can buy it in black and gold, purple and gold, white and blue, red and navy blue, all types of colors. we've got you covered here on the John Barnes Show. So visit www.johnbarnes.com or thisshitmorethanthegame.com and buy your This Shit More Than the Game shirt now. And let the world know, folks, this shit more than a game. And also, guys, Mardi Gras is here. So if you want to make sure you get your This Shit More Than a Game Mardi Gras edition shirt before Mardi Gras Tuesday in 2 weeks. Wow, Mardi Gras season, it comes so fast and it goes so fast. Go to www.johnbarnes.com or thisshitmorethanthegame.com if you're nasty. You can hurry up and get your This Shit More Than the Game Mardi Gras edition shirt before Fat Tuesday. I also want to give a thanks to everybody who's left Super Chats the past 2 weeks. So, of course, the king of the Super Chats, Brute Saint, my guy. He left a few today as well. We appreciate the hell out of you, Brute Saint. Slim John Un, Pro P, Miss Barbara, Vito in the house, Carl Dunn, Easy E, Jonathan Boudreaux. That's a great name, Jonathan. JB, too. Great guy. If you were JB, you're This Shit More Than the Game certified. And Cole, thank you guys for leaving Super Chats. Every Super Chat that I get, I invest right back into the show. I promise you guys that, and hopefully you guys see the fruits of your labor. Is that the way you say it? Fruits of your labor? Hopefully y'all see the fruits. Well, it is now. Hopefully y'all see the fruits of y'all labor with the Super Chats that y'all have given to the John Barnes Show. All right, final topic, y'all. We talked about this a little bit with John Hendrix. I'm sure many of you guys have seen the tweet by now from Kevin Weeks, who actually works for the NHL as a reporter. He says, in speaking to Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly, NHL Deputy Commissioner, by the way, and other sources involved, I can confirm that there was a recent meeting in New York City with a group expressing their interest to bring an NHL expansion team to New Orleans. Let me show you how much traction I got, by the way. It's kind of wild. Like, that tweet was up for about an hour, and for some reason, it had not hit the New Orleans stratosphere yet. So I saw it. Shout out to my brother who sent it to me. And I say, wow, New Orleans won an NHL team. Can it really happen? And boy, when I retweeted that, suddenly everybody from New Orleans got wind of it. Media, content creators, et cetera, et cetera. And suddenly that tweet blew up. And now, there was motion and there was a lot of stories about NHL coming to New Orleans, and reporters are calling NHL, and they're calling the Superdome officials and Smoothie King Center officials to try to get some analysis about how valid it is. The tea leaves are saying that it is more of a wild pipe dream than an actual reality. But I mean, how can you not see a tweet like that and not get excited about a possibly third professional team in the city of New Orleans? Am I a hockey fan? Hell no. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm not. I respect the game. I'm watching it from the side of my eye right now. USA in the World Cup. I will support anything that has New Orleans on it. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't want to be a wet blanket, y'all, but I don't realistically see it. I mean, the Pelicans made the playoffs last year. Granted, we got our ass whooped, but I was in the building when the Pelicans were in the playoffs. It wasn't the most exciting season last year, but we were in the playoffs, and it was not a full house. It was not. We couldn't sell out a playoff game. So how am I to believe that the city can support 3 professional franchises? And we know the Saints are always going to be good, right? I mean, raise the season ticket prices, and my dumb ass is still going to be paying for it. The Saints are always going to be good. The Pelicans, they're kind of in the middle. If they would actually win more consistently, they could probably expand their fan support. And then the NHL team, it seems real hard to believe a small market like New Orleans can do it. Would I love it? Yes. If there's actually any momentum and motion behind it, will I use whatever small platform I have to be a cheerleader and a champion for it? You're damn right. But we will have to see. Jeff Duncan reported that Smoothie King executives said that they heard nothing about this. So, again, it's kind of like, well, how serious is this? Now, again, Kevin Weeks is a valid reporter. Like, he's one of the top NHL reporters. So it's not like this is a Joe Blow reporter reporting this. So somebody's talking. Now, how is somebody talking when, the arena people don't know nothing about it or whatever? I don't know. I saw Governor Landry is now trying to put some momentum behind it. It would be exciting. Now, a lot of people also said, because my tweet, and again, y'all, I'm so grateful that how my page has become like a New Orleans or Louisiana hub for people to get their takes off. I really appreciate that. I do not wear that crown lightly. I promise you guys. But a lot of people in the comments were telling me or just saying their general opinion that, I give up the Pelicans for the NHL. Now, hold on. Y'all got a little too much dip on your chip with that. I'm an NBA guy. Like, the Pelicans piss me the off. Who they piss me off. But that's our franchise. They may be mediocre, but they're New Orleans' franchise. The fact that New Orleans has an NBA team is a blessing, if we're being honest. And I'm not saying that as a guy who has connections and friends in the building, has worked for the Pelicans for 13 years. I'm saying that as a general fan of NBA basketball in the city of New Orleans. No, I do not want to sacrifice the Pelicans to bring an NHL team here. If in our pipe dream world, the NHL team does come here, goddamn in New Orleans, we're going to have to step up and try to find a way to make it work. Do I think it's going to happen? No. Is it nice to kind of have some excitement about it? Yes. Because what I always tell y'all, fanaticism is built off hope. I know that it's probably very unlikely that we get an NHL team, but damn, does it feel good to finally have some hope that, hey, shoot, New Orleans might get a third professional team. Hey, I remember when the Hornets were trying to come down here and people were like, ain't no way. New Orleans is never going to get an NBA team. And now here we are 20 plus years into a miserable Pelicans existence. But hey, it's an existence, right? New Orleans has an NBA team. Crazier things have happened, y'all. Crazier things have happened. So we will see about the future of NHL in New Orleans. But I will say, where there's smoke, there's fire. It might not be a huge fire. It might not be a huge fire. It might just be a campfire. It may not be a fire like the Los Angeles wildfires, but there is smoke. So we will see what happens with the NHL possibly coming to New Orleans. I know one thing for sure. If the NHL does come to New Orleans, and you guys want to go to the arena to view the game, y'all can save money this way. Here's a gift just for you for being a fan. Are you going to a sports game or a concert or any major event? Well, buy your tickets from SeatGeek and use the promo code JONO at checkout, and you can receive $20 off your purchase over $50. That's $20 off your purchase. What are you waiting for? You know this shit more than a game, man. Hey, y'all, again, thank y'all so much for showing out in the chat. I mean, that it goes a long way. I'm telling y'all right now, like when these guests come on and they see the chat active and popping, they know, oh, this was definitely worth my time. This Jono guy does have some traction to his name, and it makes other guests want to come on. So I appreciate you guys for showing out on the Jono Barnes Show on a Thursday night. We had a great time. Again, shout out. Let's give a round of applause to the great John Hendrix. Make sure y'all follow John Hendrix if you're not already on all his platforms. You see below at John with a H, J Hendrix on all social media platforms. I am excited to see his content from Combine Weekend because this is going to be a very important draft for the New Orleans Saints, and us having the top 10 pick gives you something to look forward to. Lord knows we need it, right? Lord knows we need it. So I appreciate you guys. Appreciate John Hendrix. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to have more guests this offseason. I promise you guys. Y'all gave me this platform. I do not play with y'all time. I'm going to reward you guys. So we're going to have a great offseason. Oh, and one last thing. Somebody on Twitter last week asked me a crazy question, y'all. He asked me a crazy question. He said, Jono, I know you're about to be a father soon. What if your baby likes the Falcons? What if my baby likes the Falcons? Well, guess it wouldn't be my baby now, would it? This shit more than a game.
Juno.